Well, it's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. If you probably know right about now, Taiji Ishimori has put out another show called The Superhuman Taiji Ishimori Gets Even Ridiculous. And this is his latest self-produced show where he's involved in all the matches. I know what you guys are thinking. That is impossible. And I have to say, he is truly a superhuman in it. But it's a real fun event. And as you probably know right about now, I kind of forgot the AEW move for right now, their show on a Tuesday. So once again, AEW and NXT collide. However, on NXT, you know that they will be colliding with TNA in a showdown. As you know, it's TNA versus NXT. But the real question is, who will take the victory between these two promotions? Will it be TNA or NXT? That's a very good question. We're going to be looking forward to it. And in AEW Dynamite, as you all know, we are on the road to WrestleDream. A lot of things could happen. But however, of course, Kyle Fletcher puts his title on the line, the TNT Championship, once again in a match with Kyle O'Reilly. People are calling it Kyle versus Kyle 2, which is kind of interesting. We do have, of course, Brodito taking on Okada and Konosuke Takeshita to see if they have the capabilities to hopefully get one day the AEW World Tag Team belts. That's basically the Don Callis family's goal. And of course, the main event features Pac versus Orange Cassidy. As you all know, the rivalry has been recorded countless times. So this is going to be another epic match. So can't wait to show it for all of you. And then as always, we'll cap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in the world wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Nagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So let's begin with New Japan with the Superhuman Taiji Ishimori Gets Even Ridiculous. Okay, New Japan with Superhuman Taiji Ishimori gets even ridiculous. Now, this is a self-produced show where Taiji Ishimori himself is involved in all the matches. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. J-Rod, there is no effing way he could do it. Well, I witnessed it firsthand. So you have to hear it from the horse's mouth, me. So anyway, I thought it was like interesting. I didn't caught on the whole thing from the last time I might have reviewed this one, but however, it makes more personal sense. He's involved in every match, but you probably ask yourselves, how the hell does he do it? Because I'm sure many of us would question it, because you have to put your body through intense of endurance, the stamina, all of that. And I think it makes a perfect fit of the whole thing, Superhuman. So, yes. But however, this is not your typical normal wrestling match, just because every match has a block, and like multiple wrestlers in each matches, but in certain aspects in an Iron Man style. But however, they do keep track of all his matches on what matches he had wins and losses. Like the wins that he made, the losses that he had, but the match continues on regardless. Like, the Iron Man match that lasts like maybe 30 minutes to an hour, that sort of thing. Now, there was like a pre-show block that they had. Features him, Taiji Ishimori, Daiki Nagai, what's his name? Katsuya Murashima, and Jun Kasai. So yes, so basically they're that. However, what's his name? Nagai actually got taken out over the rope on this one, but however, but yeah, it was of course Ishimori that did that, and then of course it was a submission by Jun Kasai onto Taiji Ishimori, and just like that, it's over. However, the match continued until the bell rung, and of course Jun Kasai was the one who picked up the win in this match himself. But that's how things started. So basically, his win-loss record in this match, 1-1. Now, it doesn't matter if he wins or loses in the match. It tells us how much he can pull it off. Now, the first match involving, of course, the main card of the show is called the Iron Man Secret Block. So basically, you have wrestlers that were, in fact, coming out. And of course, if there's a moment where Taiji Ishimori needs a break, he calls in for a substitute. And there's been plenty. So, but here's who was involved in this match. Jun Kasai, Taiji Ishimori, Muhammad Yone from Noah, Leona, many of you may not know who he is, but he is like another technical wrestler in Japan. Asushi Kotoge from Noah as well. Who else? Shiro Koshinika, I don't know who he is. Yeah, he's a veteran wrestler. Dump Matsumoto, the Brahman brothers, Kaya and Shu, then Jun Akiyama, one of the pillars of All Japan Pro Wrestling. And of course, the match itself ended in a contest. But however, Taiji Ishimori was able to pick up 2 wins in this match. But however, he lost about 7 of those. So basically, it became a 3 wins and 7 losses in this match. They're counting every match, every point that he makes from each block. However, the next block jumped into a different scenario. This one's called the Iron Man Tohoku Muscle Match. So basically, it's all about people who have pure muscle, like himself. Other than him being involved, there's Ryosuke Taguchi, which is too damn funny. Then we have Yo, Takamichinoku, Dick Togo, Great Sasuke, Shuji Ishikawa, Toru Nohachi, and Mao. So it's a pretty fun match, not to mention Great Sasuke. I don't know what the hell he was doing. Like, some moments he was doing, sitting down, like doing meditating, but go like, I don't know. But yes, well, of course, Dick Togo, you can't trust him because he's a freaking member of the House of Losers, so you probably can guess how that's gonna be. But Taiji Ishimori once again was unable to successfully to pick up any wins in this match, so he remained at 3. But however, he did ended up taking up 2 losses in this one when he was pinned or submitted, which was a very nerve-wracking to keep track in case anybody asks. But the people who won this match was Yo and Mao, so they remain in the next block, from my understanding. Other than Taiji Ishimori, Yo, and Mao, the match turned into the Iron Man Rumble Muscle Block, which, interesting enough, they added Titan, that scumbag Show, straight up from Dragon Gate Hyo, Kojo Takeda, Bolton Oleg, Roy Oiwa, and um, Drilla Maloney. So yes, you can guess that this match was going to be another chaotic moment. However, Taiji Ishimori was able to add 3 more points, 3 more wins into this match, even though he hasn't had no losses in advancing. So it became a 6-on-9. But Mao was the one who picked up the win in this block once it was completely over. Then we jump into the Iron Man Rumble Dragon block, which of course we have people regarding, of course, dragons in either in Dragon Gate or just simply dragons. Taiji Ishimori, Mao remain, but they had a surprise visit from, of course, Shun Skywalker from Dragon Gate, which of course you don't want to mess around. Then we have Kagetora, who also from Dragon Gate. Then we have Dragon Daya, which is great. Then we have Ruji Ito, Shingo Takagi, which of course many of you know, he had a long history with Dragon Gate, long before Pro Wrestling Noah. Then we got the original Dragon, Tatsumi Fujinami, and then finally Hirotimo Dragon, portrayed by Kizuki Hirota. Of course, many of you know him from DDT, who does that dance thing with those glasses. So yeah, he tries to pretend he's like a new version of Ultimo Dragon, but he ended up losing. However, Taiji Ishimori was able to gain 5 more wins in this match, in case anybody asks. However, for the losses section, he only had 1. So basically, he was able to beat the record on this one. So he was able to get 11 wins and 10 losses, but he picked up the win. But later, there was a final match that had nothing to do with the Iron Man on this one. It was known as the Final Mucha. I don't know what that means in some capacity. And the wrestler was none other than Geto, of course, fellow Bullet Club War Dog member with him. And of course, Ishimori was able to pick up the win with the Bloody Cross and then a close down the show with a post-match promo. And I thought it was a real fun, interesting event. I mean, it makes sense why it's called Superhuman, because he went through all the matches, you know. And it's very interesting because I think people will say there's no way he could have handled all of that, you know. But there were substitutes in certain matches that he was involved in, which of course is the rules that he set. And I have to say it's a good strategy on that part. So you should check it out, guys. Go on the New Japan On Demand, and I think they might have it. If you know any other places to stream it, then check it out. So right now, let's move on to our next review, and that is, of course, NXT Showdown. Okay, NXT Showdown. Now, as you know, we've been watching for quite a while that this was expected sooner or later with the partnership between both WWE and TNA. We've been seeing for quite some time TNA talent making appearances on NXT, and of course the same thing with NXT on TNA. So that we've been seeing that for quite some time, and it was no secret that something like this was bound to happen. But of course, the final straw that led to this showdown was when, of course, that idiot Grayson Waller decided that Obafemi and Trick Williams face off each other in a winner takes all match, where Obafemi at the time was the NXT champion, and of course Trick Williams is still currently our TNA world champion. So that sets it up, and of course this put up the TNA talent, including the upper management, in total discomfort, knowing that this was decided without even talking. Of course, Grayson Waller's an idiot, of course. So this was bound to happen. And of course, we saw what happened. They managed to get involved and all that. However, we did have a 2-match Survivor Series types. One for the men's, one for the women's. We know the team captains. Then, of course, we have the winner take all for the winner take all tag team belts, and of course the North American belt. But let's get to everything. Our first match, of course, is the TNA World Tag Team belts put on the line against the NXT Tag Team Championships. The Hardys will defend them against Dark State. Now, of course, the referee was smart enough to tell was named Sugar and Cutler James to take a hike, knowing too well that this has to be a clean match. Because of course, Dark State will do whatever it takes to take what's theirs to send a point. However, it did not do any well for them. However, it did lead to a clean match in case. But towards the end, it was the Hardys that prevailed, thanks to the great cohesion we always seen with the Hardys, applying, of course, first a twist of fate, then a swanton by Jeff, onto, of course, the Lennox, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over. Brand new NXT Tag Team Champions. Of course, the Hardys are now double champions. Now, this possibly makes a very good question. As you all know, the Hardys are going to put the TNA World Tag Team belts on the line at Bound for Glory against the Hardys in a tables match. But the real question we ask ourselves, does this mean that the NXT Tag Team belts will be on the line? That's a very good question. Now, if I learn something after this, I'll let you guys know as soon as possible. Now, our next match is the Women's Survivor Series with special guest referee Jordan Grace. Now, of course, Jordan Grace, as you know, wanted to get involved in this whole thing, but however, there are people who don't trust him because they have one foot on the other, as you know what I mean. Jordan Grace is still currently with NXT, but does have a long-standing history with TNA. So she plays ref. Now, here's who is in representing TNA. We have, of course, the Inspiration, Jessie McKay, Cassie Lee, our current Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Then we have Mara Sade, who many of you may remember as Jakara Jackson, and our current TNA Knockouts World Champion, and also part of the NXT roster, Kalani Jordan. Then, of course, representing NXT, we have Lola Vice, Jada Parker, Soruka, and the team captain, our current NXT Women's Champion, Jay-Z Jane. Now, of course, a lot of people question about Kalani Jordan. Why would she side with TNA? Well, of course, many people forget that everybody in the locker room doesn't think that she had what it takes whatsoever. And I think Santino played that very well. And of course, throughout the entirety, some people, when they see her, the fan base were calling her a traitor. I mean, yeah, maybe so, but everybody just still don't believe that you don't have what it takes to make it. However, much of the entirety, they haven't been elimination until it was Sade to pick up the win on Jada Parker, and then of course, out of nowhere, Soruka applied the Soul Snatcher onto Sade, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. So became even right from there. And then later we did see a back fist by Lola Vice onto Cassie Lee, and just like that, it keeps moving on. But however, Kalani Jordan was able to pick up the win by pinning Lola Vice, and just like that is over. And then it led into a bit of a 2-on-1 scenario, I believe. Kalani Jordan was by herself, but however, it was, of course, Soruka was able to apply the Soul Snatcher, but however, Jay-Z Jane was able to tag herself in and pick up the win, and just like that, it was completely over. Give me a minute. Bueno. Hold on. Sorry, folks. Oh, no. I'm not interested in that. Hold on. Ooh. 160 minutes. Okay, we'll see. Okay. Bye. Sorry, folks. That was my mother. She was asking me a question. So anyway, so yeah. So basically you have one for TNA, one for NXT. So that leads up right there. Now, in the back, we did see, of course, Matt Cardona talking to Ava. Now, Matt Cardona was apologizing to what he did to Josh Briggs. Now, it was like, don't play games, Matt Cardona. We know you. You made a living in the independents. Okay, you got me. But I want a match against, of course, Josh Briggs. Well, however, Josh Briggs shows up, and Ava's like, let me guess. You want a match against Mark Cardona? Yes, I do. I don't care about this whole TNA NXT crap. So she decided next week it's going to be Matt Cardona versus Josh Briggs. And of course, it gave the wish come true for, of course, for Matt Cardona. Now, our next match, we have the North American Championship on the line. Ethan Page defends it against Mustafa Ali. Now, of course, many of you know this, that a couple years ago, there's been talk that Mustafa Ali, before he was ever released from WWE, that he was on plans to have him become the next North American champion. I think that was like back in 2023. But apparently it never happened. Some people thought it was total BS. Some people were in like, what? And of course, Mustafa Ali is treating this like it's a curse. But he had to endure a lot of punishment from Ethan Page. As you know, Ethan has an ego to match because he's frustrated on many levels. One, he wants to obtain the Latin American Championship because he felt that that title represents the North American title. But I have to say, Mustafa Ali put up a fight until, unfortunately, he ended up with the cutter by Ethan Page, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, however, we did see an interview with Sarah talking to Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., talking about Ethan Page. Now, of course, Dr. Wagner thinks that, of course, Ethan Page must be crazy, saying that this title represents the North American title. So it's like, yeah, cry me a river on that. So he wasn't having it. But however, Lexis King, being the total idiot, he thinks that Dr. Wagner is in fact Tavion Heights. Well, Tavion Heights showed up right behind him and was like, how did you do that? So basically he's confused, like, who's who? But however, he will be facing Lexis King will deal with Dr. Wagner Jr. Real soon. So that's going to be fun. Now, our main event is the Men's Survivor Series. Special referee, we have Say His Name and He Appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. Yep, he's our special guest referee. Also in the same predicament as Jordan Grace, that of course no one trusts him because he has one foot in with TNA and one foot in with NXT. So that pretty much sells it. Now here's who represents who. Representing Team TNA, we have, of course, Leon Slater, Frankie Kazarian, Moose, and Team Captain Mike Santana. Representing Team NXT, we have the young OG, Javon Evans, Miles Bourne, co-captain Trick Williams, and Ricky Saints. So this is a huge event, in case anybody asks. So basically, this match had some egos coming up. However, I like to point out that Team TNA seems like they were getting on the right page, as we probably would have expected, because of course Trick Williams is trying to say that he is far more superior than Ricky Saints, and that's pretty much what's been happening. But however, what's his name? Miles Bourne was the first person to fall when, of course, Kazarian applied his springboard cutter, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. And then, of course, we did see Slater pin Evans, and just like that, it was over. But, however, Ricky Saints was trying to coexist with Trick. However, Trick decided to walk out, leaving Saints all by himself. Of course, trying to take matters in their own hands. Ricky Saints did everything humanly possible to win. So he took out, of course, Frankie Kazarian, and then Leon Slater all by himself. However, he was no match with, of course, with Moose and Mike Santana. I have to say those two worked very well until, of course, we saw Moose speared Ricky Saints, and then, of course, the spin to block by Mike Santana. Now, of course, the whole situation ends up 2-2. So basically, 2 wins on both sides, on NXT and TNA. So, but however, Ava and Santino said, look, we got this out of the way, so let's get back on some pressing matters. So she decided that they need a #1 contender for the NXT Women's Champion. So basically, they had to choose the right one. So we'll see what happens from there. So we'll see about that. You guys tell me what you think. I have to say the show was pretty interesting, but I don't know. I mean, it could have been a pay-per-view in my opinion. I mean, it would have been standing long. We would have loved to see more matches involving both TNA and NXT, to be honest with you. I mean, it was a good show, but I would prefer if they had this as a pay-per-view. I mean, what did you guys think? So leave a comment down below if you guys would agree with me on that. But so right now, let's move on to our last, of course, review, and that is AEW Dynamite. Okay, final review, AEW Dynamite, Title Tuesday as they call it, and they make the return back to Jacksonville at Daly's Place, which of course has been their home during, of course, the COVID-19 time. But it's great that they're there again because that holds a lot of memories. Now, we opened up with the face-to-face confrontation between our current AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page and 1/3 of the Ops, of course, Samoa Joe. Now, as you all know, recently what happened, there's been like a bit of a situation that happened between the two of them when they teamed up last week. So basically, they went back and forth. Of course, Samoa Joe told him that he's going to hurt him, choke him out, and of course, Hangman, being Hangman, told him what he's going to do to him. So we'll see what happens when we get there in WrestleDream. Now, we did see an interview with Alicia 2 talking to the conglomeration, of course, with Mark Briscoe giving the word of the day. I don't know what the word of the day he said. It was kind of weird, but it's cool. Anyway, he talks about Willow, as you know, teaming up with Jet Speed to take on FTR and Megan Payne and whoever it's going to be involved as well. And then talking about Kyle O'Reilly taking on Kyle Fletcher and all of that. And then, of course, Orange Cassidy taking on Pac, which is an old rivalry that we all know too well, that's been known. And of course, Ishii actually was there too, ready to take on, of course, Moxley. So you probably can guess how that's going to be. Now, we jump into that match, Jon Moxley versus Tomohiro Ishii. I have to say it was one of those matches. Now, people said that this is more of a rematch between, of course, Moxley and Ishii. I think I may remember because Moxley did not win all his matches in his first ever G1 participation a couple years ago. And Ishii was amongst those wrestlers that he lost to. And of course, Ishii, being the tough SOB that he is, he refuses to stay down. And of course, Marina Shafir decides to get involved. But however, Jon Moxley was able to stomp Ishii, then of course apply a chokehold, and just like that, ref called it off, called it knowing that Ishii was not going to tap out. So it ended just like that. Now, Renee Paquette was able to talk to the Young Bucks about, of course, a particular subject was, of course, is the Jurassic Express. Now, she asked them, aren't you guys concerned about them because, you know, they're back together and all this? And of course they are, but the one thing that of course it's going on is Nick, once again, as you know, he wasted thousands of dollars in gambling, is asking Tony Khan for another money match. So that's what he's been saying. But of course it was later foretold that that's going to happen next week. Now, we did see a street fight between the man, which is the faction with the Gates of Agony, Tole Ona, and Bishop Khan, along with Ricochet, to take on the Hurt Syndicate. Now, as you know, this rivalry has been going for far too long. As you know, Ricochet, his rivalry with the Hurt Syndicate dates back even years ago. That kind of sets it up right there. And of course, they use every toy they can get. Of course, tables, ladders, chairs, garbage cans, kendo sticks, whatever they use to take each other out. I mean, I felt like the man would have been in a bit of a position where they could have won. But however, it was Bobby Lashley that put Ricochet in a German suplex, flying over through a table, allowing for Shelton Benjamin to pick up the win. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, Hurt Syndicate picked up the win. Now, we did see, of course, a interview with Renee Paquette with the Don Callis family. As you know, these guys are continuing to add numbers into the role. As you probably can guess, their aim is for the ROH World Title, even the tag belts, that sort of thing. Now, we did see the Jurassic Express in a match against KM, and I don't know the other. But, of course, in the stands, we did see the Young Bucks watching, which, of course, they're determined to deal with them soon enough. But, of course, we did see the assist powerbomb between both Luchasaurus and Jungle Jack and Perry. And just like that, it was over. However, of course, the Jurassic Express were attacked by the Bucks, as you know, and now it seems that these guys will take their will deal with them soon enough. But yeah. Now, the Death Riders, as you know, put out a promo giving the warnings to everybody who stands in their way. Like, of course, Pac, as you know, he has some unfinished business with Orange Cassidy, which is well documented and sort of. And of course, they decided to determine who are the winners and who are the losers, that sort of thing. Now, our next match, we have the TNT title on the line. Kyle O'Reilly versus Kyle Fletcher 2. And this was a very interesting match, not to mention, of course, we see some great technical aspects coming from from O'Reilly, using ways to try to take down Kyle O'Reilly. But, however, it was just way too much for O'Reilly until, of course, Kyle Fletcher applied a vicious brainbuster, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, he retained the title. However, Lance Archer showed up to try to finish off Riley, but thank God the conglomeration made their way through to take matters in their own hands. So you can guess how that's going to be. And not to mention more of the Don Callis fight tried to intervene, but it was just way too much. Now, Kyle Fletcher, as you know, he almost was on the verge to slobber knock Mark Briscoe. And of course, Mark Briscoe doesn't want, well, Kyle Fletcher doesn't want nothing to do with Mark Briscoe. But however, Renee Paquette got told in her headset that Tony Khan made official that in WrestleDream, the TNT Championship will be on the line against Mark Briscoe. Which, of course, this is not what Don Callis wants, but they know they have to strategize too well. They cannot lose this belt one way or another. Now, our next match is a TBS Championship in an open challenge. Mercedes Moné defends her belt against Lacey Lane. Many of you know her as as Kaden Carter back in WWE. And it's great to see her. And I thought the match was pretty good, I'm not going to lie. There was some great moments, but however, it was expected that Mercedes Moné was going to walk out with the win when she applied the statement maker, and just like that, the money maker, and just 1, 2, 3, it was done. Now, we've been seeing video promos between two different groups. One is Sammy Guevara and Beast Mortos. As you know, they were dealing with the combined forces of Hook and Eddie Kingston. So that's going to be killer. Now, our next match is Konosuke Takeshita and Kazuchika Okada taking on Brodito, our current AEW World Tag Team Champions. And of course, you can tell there has been some distinction between both Okada and Takeshita, because Okada, as you know, he has a long-standing reputation, and so does Takeshita. But Takeshita feels that he should be at the top now, and Okada has fulfilled his purpose. But unfortunately, Okada was able to pick up the win when he applied the Rainmaker on Bandito, and just like that, is over. However, we did see an interview with Brodito, and of course, they cannot let this loss get into their heads. Knowing too well, they cannot afford to lose the tag belts, which is something. Now, we did see an interview with Renee Paquette talking to Jet Speed, talking about, of course, their issues towards FTR, Stokely, Megan Bayne, and Penelope Ford. And they said they're going to take matters in their own hands no matter what. So we'll see where that leads in Collision this coming Saturday. And of course, FTR and Stokely had some words to say, and of course, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. But the real question is how they're going to survive it, knowing too well there's been a numbers game in this one. Now, our main event is Orange Cassidy versus Pac. It's no secret that these two guys know each other too well. they have dealt with each other in the past. And of course, Pac cannot stand the shenanigans with Orange Cassidy. As you all know, Orange Cassidy, he likes to roll off somewhere, roll from one ring to the next. And of course, that's something that Pac has also been too familiarized with him no matter what. But there was a moment where Pac took a page out of Orange Cassidy. And of course, that paid dearly. Now, however, Pac was intending to put down Orange Cassidy outside the ring to ensure this one match was won by countout. However, apparently he got chained and handcuffed by the ankle by Darby Allin, leaving Pac struggling to get out. However, this match ended with a roll-up by Orange Cassidy, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, Darby Allin showed up, as you know, taking matters in Owen's hands, because right now his war with Jon Moxley is still rages on. And then, of course, we did see something very interesting. Darby Allin pulled off a Molotov cocktail. As you know, it's one of those things where you have alcohol in this thing. If you just turn it on, but the lighter, it explodes on impact when you toss them. And of course, security stopped them. They tried to even separate Moxley, not to get him near. But the real question, Moxley, I think, he's unhinged. He's tried everything humanly possible to hurt Darby Allin, and he refuses to stay down. And I think it's putting him on edge. And so is Darby Allin. But we'll see what happens when we get to the I Quit match at WrestleDream. But as of right now, we are officially done with our reviews. Let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin as always with upcoming events. We have the GCW updates. As you know, next month in November, they'll be making their debut in Maine for the event known as Massacre in Maine. They just announced first time ever they face off each other. We have, of course, Shotzi Blackheart taking on, he's nice and he's very evil, Danhausen. That's going to be an interesting match. I'm definitely going to see. Hopefully, it's going to turn out great. And then, of course, on the 22nd of November on Dream On, they will be, of course, a tag team match. Bear Dozer, consistent of Bear Bronson and Matt Tremont. They take on, of course, ECW Legends, Tommy Dreamer, and, of course, Gore. Yup, Rhino. Now, we also have, of course, Deadlock Pro Wrestling has announced for their Super Battle event that takes place on the 19th of October, later on this month. The tag team action it's been announced, a 6-man. We have BK Westbrooks, Bojack, and Morgan Dash. They take on Trevor Lee, formerly known as Cameron Grimes, taking on Judas Icarus, and Trevor William, also known as the tag team known as Sinner and Saint. So that's pretty much it for our upcoming events. Now for some interesting developments. Now, as you all remember, not too long ago, Raja Jackson, the son of UFC fighter known as Rampage Jackson, Raja Jackson was in headlines for putting up a local wrestler in LA named Sicko Stu in the hospital, putting him unconscious. Now, there's been a lot of debate about that. Raja Jackson should be in jail for what he did. And of course, we know that his father, Rampage, said he doesn't speak to him because he shamed the family name. And I don't blame him, You know what his son did, it was wrong. And of course, he has to answer for what he did. And of course, charges have been mentioned that are being set to file against him for what he did. But yeah. Hopefully things will go well, and I'm sure justice will prevail for what just happened. Many of you know this already. I mentioned that Hikaru Shida has re-signed with AEW. However, much of the details have not been said, but new details reveal that the type of contract is a multi-year contract with AEW. And of course, we have Xavier Woods. He re-signed also with WWE in a multi-year contract as well. Now, some interesting else in our developments. IYO SKY, Mayu Iwatani had consulted IYO SKY about moving to MARIGOLD at Suma Sakai's retirement show in the U.S. this past January. So as you know, many of you may question, why would she consult with IYO SKY? You guys keep in mind, IYO SKY and Mayu Iwatani, their relationship dates way back, and they're more like sisters, and that's always been the case. And this is what she said when she consulted. She took me out for a drive late night that IYO-san said to me, "Until now, Mayu, you've always been the type of to follow someone because they told you to. Isn't this the first time you made such a big decision on your own? So no matter the outcome, when I come back to Japan, I'll cook you sekihan, which is a red bean rice traditionally cooked for celebration, for making this decision. So when she comes back this time, I want to make her sekikan for making this decision, and then after I beat IYO-san, I'll have to cook sekikan again for celebrating that." So yeah, so basically she turned to IYO about possibly moving to MARIGOLD. It probably some people remember, Rossy Ogawa has always been like a father to her. Her father died years ago, and Rossy Ogawa has been like a father figure, and Fuka, who has been her trainer, has been like a mother figure. So she's basically close now to her parents, her figure parents, if I might add. Now, many of you know this guy, the Sandman, who's an ECW legend. Many people may wonder why he's not in a WWE Legends deal. Well, he had some things to say regarding that. He didn't outright say no to the offer, but when asked if the Legends deal with WWE, Sandman admitted he doesn't, and explained why he never been interested in one. "No, I don't. I didn't ask." I was like, "No Legends deal?" So basically that. So that's basically what they're saying. And then finally, of course, many of you heard about the WWE LFG of Season 2 winners, and this is what they announced. For the men's, we have, of course, a guy named Sekieski, who defeated, of course, PJ Varza in the women's Hell's Gate submission. And who else in it? Oh yeah. So yeah, there's Shiloh Hill. So we got Danny Sekieski and Shiloh Hill. They're both now the Season 2 winners. So most likely we will see them very soon in NXT. So can't wait to see that. So as of right now, we are officially done with our reviews and everything else. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode coming up now, as you probably guessed, on a Wednesday. I went out of my way thinking we have Dynamite, but however, it did not. I know we're gonna have WWE Evolve, but I may consider saving that till Thursday, because I felt like I need to catch up with the Yoshi events that I'm way behind, such as, of course, Marvelous, MARIGOLD, Sendai Girls, and whatnot. So I want to concentrate on that and put Evolve in the same category with, of course, with TNA and Ring of Honor. So we'll go from there as soon as possible. But I'll let you guys know how things would progress from there. So we'll see how things will go for the next episode. But as of right now, I'll say this, that I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.